if you guessed it was Cappy, you'd be right. It's Cappy. Some people know me as Cappy Cappy. And now that that's out of the way, we can talk about playing two instrument sounds back to back. So playing two instrument sounds on the surface might not sound like anything, but it was thousands and thousands of years until we rediscovered a device that allowed us to do such a thing. See, before we had this device, if we wanted to play two instrument sounds back to back, we would just hope that we were a part of clergy or in a nunnery and have access to two different instruments. Okay? And the only people, of course, could do that would be the Catholic Church. Okay? Hence why you'd have to be a clergy or in the nunnery or something like that. So let's just hypotheticalize, okay? Well, first, I say that it can only be the Catholic Church because they're the only people that would have that type of money laying around just to splurge on the musical instruments during feudalism, when people were starving and going around naked because they didn't have a way to get clothes because they had been so dumbed down, by Rome, that it was, sad state of affairs, to say the least. Now, part B kind of plays off this, and that is that the Catholic Church would have also been the only entity or group, organization, whatever, to be greedy enough to purchase these two instruments. So, Catholic Church, okay, hypothetical situation, and if it has ever happened to be playing two instrument sounds back to back, this is how it would have happened, okay? You're a part of the church that could able to, play the piano, because commoners couldn't do that. So let's say you're sitting down at the piano, okay? We're going to play a selected piece, okay? We can't just play anything. We can't improv, because that isn't, of the Lord or whatever, It's got to be, have respect for it, It's not just an art. It's a way of life, so to speak. So you would have to have a set piece, okay? So we'd pull out the set piece and we'd lay it on the stand, for the music. We would put our hands in playing position, okay? Usually that means thumbs on middle C, at least one thumb on middle C. And then you would play your piece. Now, after you felt like you had played enough, you could then move on to the next musical instrument, which most likely was a harpsichord or an organ. Okay, this is the Catholic Church. They like playing with organs, so we're going to go with that, okay? So to get to the organ, a little bit of travel was going to be required, because the piano would be on one side of the church, or the stage, let's say, for the pastor, and the organ that you could play with would be on the other side of the stage. Okay, this is the only time the Catholic Church ever told you anything closely relating to the truth, and that was that the pastor was representing the middle path between the piano and the organ. Okay, so we would have to stand up first. Now, keep in mind, we're sitting down at the piano. We're going to be a little irresponsible and leave our sheet music behind. Now, we're going to push the bench out ever so slightly with the backs of our knees as we stand up. We're going to do this in one motion to save some time. Because see, what we're trying to do is play two instrument sounds back to back. And once we did that, we would slide away from the piano and make our way towards the organ. We would have to go down the stairs, across the aisle, back up the stairs, pull the organ out, sit down at the organ, have your set piece. It could be already up there, I guess. Then you would have to pump air into the pipe organ because there was not electricity then. Before there, yes, but now no, since Roman dumbed them down. And so now you got the air in the organ. We're going to put our hands in playing position. We also have to put our feet on the pedals. Okay, don't forget that. And then we would play our set piece. 2 instrument sounds back to back, right? Not so fast. You heard how long it took me to explain this to you. Just imagine doing it. The time that he took to play one instrument and then to play the other instrument. Too much time had elapsed. Too much so that you could not say one had played 2 instrument sounds back to back. But wait, there's another way that we could possibly do this to make it work. After playing the piano, instead of sliding the bench out and inching to the side, we could jump on top of the piano and just not really land on it. Jump with with one foot coming down, and when that one foot comes down, you push off. Okay? And this way, there's no stairs to go down. Once you land, you want to do kind of a roll. You don't want to stand up, land it on your knees. You'll hurt yourself. Okay? And if you hurt yourself like that, there's no way that you're going to play 2 instrument sounds back to back. So hear me out. Listen, okay? I know what's best. He doesn't think so. He thinks he knows a little bit more, but he says that Double Dragon is a better movie than The Goonies. And it's just not possible. Anyway, moving on. When you landed and you ducked, rolled over, you want to roll towards the organ. Okay? You don't want to do any backtracking. You want to do a straight line, as straight as we can be, So then once we get up, we're going to roll, and as we're rolling, we're going to bounce up. We're not going to miss a stride at all. And at that time, that's when the other foot comes into play. It's got to be strong. I had to do some training first, because you're going to have to push off with this one step up 3 or 4 stairs, possibly 5. In order to get to the step back up to the stage where the organ's at. And then once you do that, you're right there. Okay? Now, what you would have done before this is you would have already turned the organ on with the, pumped up the air, pumped up the volume, ready to dance. And instead of walking around the organ, we've just jumped up the steps. Now with the other foot, when it comes down, it's going to leap too. And you're going to leap up onto the organ from the back side. And you're going to hope that your arms are long enough that when you land, on your stomach, on the corners of that organ, it's going to hurt like hell, okay? But if you can get your hand down and press one of those keys, any key will do. If you can press one of those keys, then you will have played 2 instrument sounds back to back. And we didn't think it was possible then. Too bad, though, when you came down, even had you not been out of breath from this strenuous exercise, you would have been out of breath from the corner of the organ hitting you in the diaphragm, and hence knocking the breath out of you. So as you're gaped over the piano bench, that you've crawled around to kind of support some weight, make it a little easier to recover, you would not be able to enjoy the moment or the thrill of being able to play 2 instrument sounds back to back. Truly amazing. You have reached the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 of 2 instrument sounds back to back. Welcome back. This is part 2 of 2 instrument sounds back to back. So, alternatively, we could have, instead of running down the steps and back up the steps, we could have gone through the door behind the piano and going across the stage that way out of view. You know, there's a wall back there and you're walking across the stage, you know, right there across the aisle, you know, and you would do this to not, you know, distract the congregation as to your passing or what you were doing. You know, what were you doing back there? This is the Catholic Church, so nothing wrong went on, you know. The Catholic Church really doesn't operate behind closed doors. You know, that's really why I didn't bring it up to begin with. It's like, why would I bring it up? Because there's no point in it, because, you know, the Catholic Church is just so open, you know, and forthcoming. They're good guys, you know. If you ever hear me saying something bad about the Catholic Church, know that this is a different entity entirely. They might have the same dogma, they might have the same, you know, savior type, you know, the same Godhead, same, you know, book they follow. It originates from about the same time, you know, but it's not the Catholic Church that you're familiar with. You know, it's this completely fictitious organization, you know, that served as filler in my first novel. Okay? So we've discussed that there's no reason why the Catholic Church would have wanted to hide anything, you know. They were just trying to get to another spot quicker, you know, so you wouldn't have to wait. Jumping the gun, you know. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So now you know a way that it would have been possible to play 2 instrument sounds back to back. But now it's a completely different ball game. Okay? At the end of this video series, I will have gotten your trust, you know, earned it, so to speak. I will have earned your trust, and I will be, in your eyes, a credible source of information so that I can make the most extraordinary claim of the whole year is going to be 2023. You know? I just dated this video, you know? Now it's going to be outdated soon. I could have just kept my mouth shut, you know? But here it goes again. You know, this is me establishing, you know, my credibility by being honest. You know, I could have said anything. You know, I could have left it out and just pretended like it was whenever you were watching it. But I didn't. You know? Like I said, I'm trying to build some trust with you. A repertoire. Okay? Now that that's out of the way, we can talk about more in depth the synthesizer. So the synthesizer is what we would use today to play 2 instrument sounds back to back. And it doesn't really, there's not really any limitations to it now, you know. Maybe in the beginning there was, but now if you can think of the sound, you can make it up. It's a sound now, you know. Maybe we call it, you know, the Big Banger or the Baby Boomer, you know. It'd be whatever we want to, whatever we decide to create. So let's say we would start with Honky Tonk Piano 003 on your Casio keyboard. The first keyboard with the split key feature. There's a nice selfless plug. So now we want to play another instrument. I like the trombone. Let's press 27 on our Casio keyboard with split keyboard functionality. And boom, there we're at. Now let's say we wanted to play saxophone. Well, that's number 38. String quartet, 61. A Go-Go Bell, 87. Cosmic Rain, 143. Back to back to back to back to back to back. There's no limit of what you can do with this synthesizer device. It was amazing to learn all of this. And it's not just sound that this is capable of. See, this Casio keyboard with split keyboard functionality also allowed for a drum pattern to play in addition to what was already going on. So you could play bass with one hand, the riff or the lead with the other hand, have a drum pattern playing in the background, and create a complete song using just one instrument. Totally badass. Yeah. So what else? We said drums. If you've seen an earlier revelation, you would know what I'm about to say.